My name is James Parish, and I used to believe in perfect Fridays. You know the kind? Spring afternoon, windows down in the truck, classic rock station playing something that doesn't make you feel ancient. The kind of Friday where you finish a job early, the client pays without arguing, and your wife texts about dinner plans instead of honey-do lists. I'm an electrical engineer, 39 years old, co-owner of Parish Brothers Electric with my older brother John. We inherited the company from our father, built it into something respectable. Not Fortune 500 respectable, but solid middle class, pay your bills, send your kids to college respectable. The kind of business where you know your employees' birthdays and their kids' names. That Friday started like every other. Coffee at 5:30, shower, kiss Beth goodbye while she pretended to sleep. Drive to the office in my F-150, radio tuned to the oldies station, because I'm apparently old enough now to enjoy songs from the 80s, unironically. The morning went smooth. Carl Robertson, our VP, had the crew schedules sorted. Joanne and Mary, our office assistants, had the invoicing caught up. Even John seemed less cranky than usual, which should have been my first warning sign. "Good day, Jimmy," he said, using the nickname I'd outgrown 20 years ago. "Real good day." John's always been the business side while I handled the technical work. He schmoozes clients, manages contracts, plays golf with city council members. I design electrical systems, troubleshoot problems, get my hands dirty. It worked for us. Complementary skills, they call it in business school. "You seem cheerful," I said, grabbing my work tablet. "Win the lottery?" "Better than that?" His grin looked strange, almost predatory. "Much better." I should have pressed him on that comment. Should have noticed how Joanne avoided eye contact when I walked past her desk. Should have paid attention to the way Mary's phone conversation stopped mid-sentence when I entered the room. Instead, I loaded up my truck and headed to the Riverside Medical Complex for a routine inspection. New construction, high-end facility, the kind of job that pays well and leads to more work. I spent the morning crawling through ceiling spaces, checking junction boxes, making sure everything met code. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Text from Beth. "Working late with my boss again. Don't wait up." I stared at the message for a full minute. Beth worked part-time at Keller Marketing, mostly administrative stuff. Her boss was Marcus Keller, a smooth-talking guy in his 40s who drove a BMW and wore expensive suits. Beth had mentioned working late with him several times recently. Something about the text bothered me. The phrasing felt off, too casual, like she was testing something. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. A dozen responses ran through my mind, most of them the understanding husband routine. "Okay, honey, see you tomorrow. Don't work too hard. I'll leave dinner in the fridge." Instead, I typed, "No problem. I'll keep his wife company." Sent it before I could second-guess myself. The response came in 11 seconds. "What do you mean?" "Elena's been lonely lately. Might stop by, bring some wine. You know how these late meetings go." My phone rang immediately. Beth's ringtone, some pop song she'd downloaded months ago. "James, what are you talking about?" "Just being neighborly," I said, keeping my voice light. "Elena mentioned Marcus has been working a lot of evenings. Thought she might appreciate some company." "You can't just show up at someone's house uninvited." "Who said uninvited? Elena and I have been chatting. She's got some interesting stories about Marcus's schedule." The line went quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. "James, don't do anything stupid." "Stupid? I'm just being a good neighbor. Unless there's some reason I shouldn't visit Elena Keller while you're working late with her husband." Another long pause. "I have to go." "Tell Marcus I said hello." She hung up. I sat in my truck outside the medical complex, engine running, air conditioning fighting the spring heat. Something was happening here, something bigger than late meetings and neighborly visits. The pieces were floating around in my head, not quite connecting, but close enough to make my stomach tight. I actually did have Elena Keller's number. We'd met at a company Christmas party, exchanged pleasantries, talked about the challenges of being married to workaholic husbands. She'd seemed nice enough, a little lonely maybe. Marcus struck me as the type who treated his wife like an accessory, but I hadn't been chatting with Elena, hadn't made any plans to visit. The whole conversation had been a bluff, a test, and Beth had failed it spectacularly. I finished the inspection in a daze, going through the motions while my mind raced. 23 years of marriage. 2 daughters, Beau and Bree, 15 and 13 respectively. A house we'd bought together, a business we'd built as a family. All of it suddenly feeling fragile as spun glass. The drive home took forever. Every red light lasted an eternity. Every song on the radio sounded like it was written by someone going through a messy divorce. I caught myself gripping the steering wheel hard enough to leave marks. Our house sits on Maple Street, a quiet cul-de-sac in what real estate agents call an established neighborhood. Translation: old enough to have character, expensive enough to keep out the riffraff. We'd lived there for 12 years, knew all the neighbors, attended block parties and school fundraisers. The moving truck in my driveway changed everything. 2 guys in coveralls were loading our couch into the back of a white rental truck. My couch. The one Beth and I had picked out together, argued about the color, finally compromised on something called sage green that looked gray in certain light. I parked on the street, walked up the driveway like I was approaching a crime scene. The front door stood open. More movers inside, wrapping dishes in newspaper, boxing up our life in neat, labeled containers. "Excuse me," I said to the nearest guy. "What's going on here?" He looked up from a box of books. "Moving job, sir. Lady said her husband knew about it." "I'm the husband." His face went red. "Oh, maybe you should talk to her. She's in the kitchen." I found Beth standing next to a stack of boxes, clipboard in hand, looking like she was managing a corporate relocation instead of dismantling our marriage. She'd changed clothes since morning. The work outfit was gone, replaced by jeans and a t-shirt I didn't recognize. "James?" She didn't look surprised to see me. "We need to talk." "About the moving truck in our driveway?" "Yeah, I'd say so." She handed me a manila envelope. "The papers are all there. I've filed for divorce. The girls are staying with John until things get settled." The envelope felt heavy in my hands. Legal documents, probably. Custody agreements, asset division, all the paperwork required to legally dissolve a life. "The girls are with John?" He offered. They need stability during the transition. Transition to what? Beth's expression shifted, became something I'd never seen before. Cold, calculated, like she was looking at a stranger instead of the man she'd shared a bed with for over 2 decades. "I'm moving in with Marcus. We've been seeing each other for a while now. It's serious, James. More serious than what we've had in years." The words hit like a physical blow. Not just the affair, somehow I'd already suspected that, but the casual way she delivered the news, like she was updating me on the weather forecast. "How long? Does it matter?" "It matters to me." She sighed, the sound of someone dealing with an unreasonable child. 14 months, maybe 15. I stopped keeping track. 14 months, over a year of late meetings and working weekends, over a year of lies, served up with morning coffee and goodnight kisses. "And John knows?" "John's been very supportive. He understands that sometimes marriages run their course." Of course he did. My brother, the family man, the moral compass of Parish Brothers Electric, the guy who gave speeches at church about the sanctity of marriage and the importance of family values. "Where are you moving?" "The Riverside Towers. Marcus has a place there." Expensive. High-end condos with river views and doormen. The kind of place Marcus Keller could afford on his marketing executive salary. The kind of place that required planning, deposits, lease agreements. "When did you sign the lease?" "What?" "The lease. When did you sign it? These places have waiting lists, background checks. You don't just move in overnight." Beth's composure cracked slightly. "I don't see how that's relevant." "Humor me." 6 months ago, maybe 7. So she'd been planning this for at least half a year, probably longer. The late meetings weren't just an affair, and they were an exit strategy. "And the girls? You discussed this with them?" "They'll understand eventually. Kids are resilient. They'll understand that their mother abandoned them for her boss." "I didn't abandon anyone. I'm starting a new life. There's a difference." The movers kept working around us, wrapping our wedding china in newsprint, loading our furniture into their truck. Strangers dismantling the physical evidence of our marriage while we stood in the kitchen having the most important conversation of our lives. "What about the house?" "You can keep it. For now. We'll work out the details later." "How generous." "Don't be sarcastic, James. It doesn't suit you." "What does suit me, according to my wife who's been lying to me for over a year?" "Ex-wife. Soon." The correction stung worse than the initial revelation. Ex-wife. Like our marriage was already past tense, a minor detail to be cleared up by lawyers and judges. "I need to see those papers." I opened the envelope while Beth supervised the movers. Divorce petition, temporary custody arrangement, asset division proposal. All very official, very thorough. The kind of paperwork that takes weeks to prepare properly. The custody section made my hands shake. Beth was requesting primary custody of both girls, with me getting reasonable visitation rights. Reasonable, like seeing my own daughters, was a privilege to be negotiated. "You think you're going to take my girls?" They need stability, James, a proper home environment. With Marcus, a man they barely know, they'll adjust. And if they don't? Beth's smile was thin, almost cruel. They will. Children adapt when they have to. I looked around the kitchen, our kitchen, trying to process what was happening. The coffee maker we'd bought for our 10th anniversary, the refrigerator covered with school photos and report cards, the breakfast bar where the girls did homework while Beth cooked dinner. All of it suddenly felt like a museum exhibit. The Parish family home, circa 2024. Please don't touch the displays. When do I get to talk to Bew and Bree? When things settle down. John thought it would be better to give them some space first. John thought, of course he did. He's trying to help James. We all are. By taking my family away? By making this as painless as possible. Painless. Like ripping someone's life apart could be accomplished with local anesthetic and good intentions. The head mover appeared in the kitchen doorway. Ma'am, we're about finished. Just need to grab the bedroom furniture. Go ahead, Beth said. Everything except the dresser by the window. That stays. My dresser. The one piece of furniture she was leaving behind. How thoughtful. I guess that's it then, I said. I guess so. 23 years, 2 kids, a business we built together, and you're walking away for Marcus Keller. I'm walking towards something better. Better than what we had? Better than what we became. The movers finished their work with professional efficiency. Boxes and furniture disappeared into the truck like our marriage had never existed. Beth signed paperwork, tipped the crew, handled the logistics of dissolution with the same competence she brought to managing our household. When the truck pulled away, she stood in our empty driveway checking items off her clipboard. Always organized, my Beth, always prepared. I'll be in touch about the details, she said without looking at me. What details? Custody schedule, asset division, the business arrangements. Business arrangements? John will explain. He's handling that side of things. Of course he was. My brother, looking out for everyone's best interests. Except mine, apparently. Beth got into a car I didn't recognize. A silver sedan, probably Marcus's. She drove away without looking back, leaving me standing in my empty driveway like a man who just watched his house burn down. I went inside and sat at the kitchen table. The house felt enormous and silent. No furniture in the living room, no dishes in the cabinets, no family photos on the walls, just me and the dresser she'd decided to leave behind. I opened the manila envelope again, read through the papers more carefully. The divorce petition listed irreconcilable differences as grounds. Clean, simple, no fault. The asset division gave Beth half of everything. House equity, retirement accounts, business value. The custody arrangement was temporary, but clearly designed to become permanent. At the bottom of the stack, I found something that made my chest tight. A restraining order petition. Not filed yet, but prepared. Ready to be submitted if I became difficult during the divorce proceedings. The message was clear. Play nice, accept the terms, don't make trouble, or else. I sat there until dark, reading and rereading the papers, trying to understand how my perfect Friday had turned into the worst day of my life, trying to figure out what I'd missed, what signs I'd ignored, what I could have done differently. But mostly, I was thinking about my girls. Bew and Bree, staying at Uncle John's house, probably confused and scared, and wondering why their father wasn't there to explain what was happening. That's when I decided Beth had made a mistake. A big one. She'd underestimated the wrong wire cutter. Saturday morning arrived like a hangover. Slow, painful, and impossible to ignore. I woke up on the living room floor, having fallen asleep reading divorce papers. The empty house echoed with sounds I'd never noticed before. Pipes settling, furnace cycling, the refrigerator humming in the kitchen like a mechanical mourner. I made coffee in the only mug Beth had left behind, a chipped ceramic thing from a long-ago vacation, and tried to figure out my next move. First priority, talk to my daughters. Second, understand what John meant by business arrangements. The drive to John's house took 15 minutes through neighborhoods that suddenly felt foreign. Every married couple walking their dogs, every family loading up minivans for weekend activities, every sign of domestic normalcy felt like a personal insult. John lived in Westfield Estates, a newer development with larger lots and higher property taxes. His house was a colonial revival with professional landscaping and a 3-car garage, the kind of place that announced its owner's success before you rang the doorbell. I parked in the circular driveway and walked to the front door. Through the window, I could see movement inside. My daughters, probably. My brother's family. Everyone carrying on like this was a normal Saturday morning instead of the aftermath of my personal apocalypse. John answered the door before I could knock. Jimmy, didn't expect you this early. I want to see my girls. They're still sleeping. It was a rough night. Rough how? Bree cried herself to sleep. Bew keeps asking questions I can't answer. Then maybe I should answer them? John stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind him. He was dressed for the golf course, polo shirt, khakis, shoes that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. Look, Jimmy, I know this is hard, but maybe it's better to let things settle down before... Before what? Before my daughters forget they have a father? That's not what I meant. What did you mean? John's expression shifted, became the patient look he used with difficult clients. Beth called last night. She's worried about how you're handling this. How I'm handling it? The text messages, the threats about visiting Elena Keller. She thinks you might do something reckless. Like what? Like make this harder than it needs to be. I studied my brother's face. John was 42, 3 years older, 6 inches taller. Growing up, he'd been the responsible one while I was the dreamer. He'd gone to business school while I studied engineering. He'd married his college sweetheart while I chased Beth for 2 years before she agreed to a first date. Always the practical brother. Always thinking ahead. How long have you known? Known what? About Beth and Marcus. John's poker face slipped for just a moment. Long enough for me to see the truth. A while, he admitted. How long is a while? Does it matter? It matters to me. He sighed, the sound of a man who'd hoped to avoid this conversation. 6 months, maybe 8. And you didn't think I should know? It wasn't my place to get involved in your marriage. But it was your place to help her plan the divorce? I helped her find a lawyer, that's all. And the custody arrangement, did you help with that too? John's silence was answer enough. I want to see Bew and Bree. They're confused right now, upset. Maybe it's better to wait until? Until what? Until Beth and Marcus have had time to turn them against me? Nobody's turning anyone against you. Then let me talk to them. We stood on the porch staring at each other. Brothers who'd built a business together, shared holidays and family dinners, supported each other through our father's funeral and our mother's cancer scare. All of it suddenly feeling like ancient history. 5 minutes, John said finally. But if they get upset, you leave. The girls were in the kitchen eating cereal, still in pajamas. Bew looked up when I walked in, her face brightening for a moment before confusion took over. Dad? What are you doing here? I came to see you, both of you. Bree, my 13-year-old, wouldn't meet my eyes. She stirred her cereal without eating, shoulders hunched like she was trying to disappear. Mom said you guys are getting divorced, Bew said. That's right. She said it's not anyone's fault, that sometimes people just grow apart. The words sounded rehearsed, like Beth had coached her on what to say. What do you think about that? Bew shrugged. I don't know. I guess if you and Mom aren't happy. Are you happy? Living here instead of at home? Uncle John's house is nice. That's not what I asked. Bree finally looked up. Why did you make Mom cry? The question hit like a sucker punch. When did I make Mom cry? Yesterday, on the phone. She was crying when she hung up. I thought about our conversation, the text messages, my threat to visit Elena Keller. Beth had been panicked, not sad. But 13-year-old girls don't always distinguish between different types of emotional distress. Your mom and I had a disagreement. Sometimes adults argue, even when they love each other. Do you still love Mom? The honest answer was complicated. I loved the woman I'd married, the mother of my children, the partner who'd helped build our life together. But that woman had apparently been replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I love you and Bew more than anything in the world. That's never going to change. But you don't love Mom anymore? It's complicated, sweetheart. John appeared in the kitchen doorway. Girls, why don't you go get dressed? We're going to the mall later. They left without argument, Bew pausing to hug me, Bree still avoiding eye contact. When they were gone, John sat across from me at the breakfast table. They're scared, Jimmy. They don't understand what's happening. Then maybe someone should explain it to them. What would you tell them? That their mother's been having an affair? That their family is falling apart because of adult mistakes they had nothing to do with? I'd tell them the truth. Which truth? Your version or Beth's? There's only one version. She's been cheating with Marcus Keller for over a year. And before that? Were you happy? Was your marriage working? The question caught me off guard. I thought about the last few years, the routine we'd settled into. Work, dinner, television, bed, rinse and repeat. Beth had seemed content, if not ecstatic. I'd assumed we were like most middle-aged couples, comfortable, stable, Maybe not passionate, but solid. Apparently, I'd assumed wrong. We were fine. Were you? Or were you just going through the motions? What's that supposed to mean? When's the last time you and Beth went on a date? Just the two of you? I couldn't remember. When's the last time you talked about something other than the kids or the business or household logistics? Again, no immediate answer. When's the last time you surprised her with anything? Flowers, dinner, a weekend away? I was building a business, providing for my family. So was she, working part-time, managing the house, raising the girls. But she was also lonely, Jimmy. And Marcus paid attention to that. Are you defending her? I'm trying to help you understand what happened. What happened is she had an affair. Everything else is just rationalization. John leaned back in his chair. Maybe, but understanding how you got here might help you figure out where to go next. Where I'm going next is to fight for my daughters. With what? You've got no money for lawyers, no place for the girls to stay, no support system. Beth's got Marcus, she's got legal counsel, she's got a plan. I've got the truth. The truth doesn't always win in family court. I stared at my brother across the breakfast table. He was right, of course. Beth had outmaneuvered me completely. While I'd been focused on work and family obligations, she'd been planning her exit strategy with the thoroughness of a military campaign. What did you mean yesterday? About business arrangements? John's expression became carefully neutral. We need to discuss your role in the company. My role? I'm a co-owner. Technically, yes. But with the divorce proceedings, things get complicated. Complicated how? Beth's entitled to half your assets, including your share of Parish Brothers. The implication hit me like a physical blow. She wants to sell my half of the business? She wants her settlement. How we structure that is up to us. Us? You and me. We can work something out that protects the company while giving Beth what she's legally entitled to. Such as? You could sell me your shares. I'll give you fair market value. Beth gets her settlement, everyone walks away clean, and I walk away with nothing. You walk away with cash and a clean start. I thought about Parish Brothers Electric, my father's company, built from nothing into something respectable. The business I'd spent 15 years helping to grow, the work I genuinely loved, the employees who depended on us, the reputation we'd built in the community, all of it suddenly hanging in the balance because my wife wanted to start over with her boss. What if I don't want to sell? Then Beth becomes a partner in the business, along with Marcus, probably, since they're planning to get married eventually. They're getting married? That's the plan, according to Beth. Marcus Keller as a partner in Parish Brothers Electric. The idea was obscene, like inviting a stranger to sleep in your parents' bed. There has to be another option. Maybe, but it's going to require compromise, from everyone. What kind of compromise? Let me talk to some people, see what we can work out. I left John's house feeling like I'd been systematically dismantled. My marriage was over. My daughters were confused and possibly turning against me. My business was in jeopardy. And everyone seemed to think this was all perfectly reasonable. Just one of those unfortunate things that happen to middle-aged men who don't pay enough attention to their wives. The drive back to my empty house gave me time to think. Beth had been planning this for months, maybe longer. The affair with Marcus was just part of it. She'd been building a case, gathering ammunition, positioning herself for maximum advantage in the divorce. But she'd made one mistake. She'd underestimated how much I cared about my daughters, and how far I'd go to protect them. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I'd made a decision. If Beth wanted to play hardball, I could learn the rules. If she wanted to destroy our family for Marcus Keller, she'd find out what that really cost. I spent the rest of Saturday making phone calls, lawyer referrals, private investigators, accountants who specialized in business valuations. By Sunday evening, I had appointments scheduled for the entire week. Beth thought she had all the advantages. Money, planning, legal counsel, family support. She was about to learn that electrical engineers are very good at solving complex problems, and I was about to become her biggest problem. Monday morning, I walked into Parish Brothers Electric like I was entering enemy territory. The office felt different. Conversation stopped when I appeared. Employees avoided eye contact. Even Joanne and Mary seemed nervous. Word travels fast in small companies. Everyone knew about the divorce by now. Probably knew about Beth and Marcus, too. Office gossip is more efficient than email when it comes to spreading uncomfortable truths. John was already in his office, door closed, voice muffled by what sounded like an important phone call. I knocked once and walked in without waiting for permission. He was talking to someone about quarterly projections, held up a finger asking me to wait. I sat in the visitor's chair and listened to him discuss profit margins and growth strategies like we weren't in the middle of a family crisis. Sorry about that, he said after hanging up. Client in Indianapolis. Big project, lots of moving parts. We need to talk. About? About the fact that half my employees act like I've got a contagious disease. John sighed. People are uncomfortable. They don't know what to say. They could start with hello. Give it time. Things will settle down. Will they? Or am I the pariah now? You're not a pariah. Then why does Carl Robertson look like he's afraid I'm going to ask him to pick sides? Because maybe you are. The accusation stung because it was partially true. I had been wondering who I could count on, who would support me if things got ugly. What did you tell them? Nothing. Just that you and Beth were having some personal issues. Personal issues. That's one way to put it. What would you prefer? That I announce to the entire staff that your wife's been having an affair? I'd prefer that my own brother had told me about it months ago. We stared at each other across his desk. The office suddenly felt smaller, more claustrophobic. 20 years of working together, building something together, and it was all coming apart because of secrets and lies. I made some calls over the weekend, I said. What kind of calls? Legal advice, business valuation, the kind of calls you make when your life's been turned upside down. John's expression became guarded. And I learned some interesting things about community property laws, about business partnerships, about what happens when one partner tries to force out the other. Nobody's forcing anyone out. Aren't you? Sell my shares or watch Beth become a partner. That sounds like force to me. It sounds like reality. The divorce is happening, Jimmy. Beth's entitled to half your assets. We can handle this the easy way or the hard way. What's the hard way? Lawyers, judges, public proceedings. The business gets tied up in court for months while everyone loses money. And the easy way? You sell me your shares for fair market value. Clean, simple, everyone moves on. I leaned back in the chair, studying my brother's face. He looked sincere, concerned, like he was genuinely trying to help. But something felt off. The timing was too convenient, the solution too neat. What's fair market value? We'll need an independent appraisal, but probably around $400,000. $400,000 for half a business worth over $2 million? The business has debt, equipment loans, outstanding contracts, accounts receivable that might not collect. The net value is much lower than gross revenue. According to who? According to our accountant. When did you talk to our accountant? John's pause lasted a beat too long. Last week, after Beth filed the papers. You've been planning this. I've been preparing for contingencies. Same thing. Look, Jimmy, I know this feels like a betrayal, but I'm trying to protect the business. If we handle this wrong, we could lose everything Dad built. Dad built this for both of us, and I'm trying to make sure it survives. I stood up, walked to the window overlooking the shop floor. Our employees were starting their Monday morning routine, checking schedules, loading trucks, preparing for another week of honest work, men and women who depended on Parish Brothers for their livelihoods. I'm not selling. What? My shares. I'm not selling them to you. Jimmy, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. This is my company too, my father's legacy too, and I'm not walking away because my wife decided to upgrade to a newer model. Then what do you propose? I turned back to face him. I propose we find another solution. Such as? Give me a week. Let me talk to my lawyer, explore some options. What options? That's what I'm going to find out. John's expression shifted, became something harder. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Difficult for who? For everyone. The employees, the clients, the family. The family? You mean the family that knew my wife was cheating and didn't tell me? We were trying to protect you. By lying to me? By giving you time to figure it out on your own. How generous. I left John's office and walked through the shop, greeting employees who responded with uncomfortable smiles and nervous small talk. The atmosphere felt toxic, poisoned by secrets and divided loyalties. Carl Robertson caught up with me near the loading dock. Jim, you got a minute? Carl was my age, had been with the company for 8 years. Solid electrician, good supervisor, the kind of employee you build a business around. What's on your mind? This situation with you and John, it's got people worried. Worried about what? Their jobs, the company, whether we're going to survive whatever's happening. What do you think is happening? Carl glanced around, making sure we were alone. I think your brother's trying to squeeze you out. Why would you think that? Because he's been asking questions about loyalty, about who people would rather work for if they had to choose. The revelation hit like a punch to the gut. John wasn't just preparing for contingencies. He was building a case for taking over completely. What kind of questions? Whether the crew would be comfortable with new ownership, whether we'd stay if the company changed hands, that kind of thing. New ownership? He didn't say specifically, but the impression was that you might not be around much longer. I felt something cold settle in my chest. My brother wasn't just helping Beth with her divorce settlement. He was planning a complete takeover of Parish Brothers Electric. What did you tell him? That you're the best boss I've ever worked for, and that most of the crew feels the same way. Most? There's always a few who'll kiss up to whoever signs the paychecks, but the majority, they're loyal to you. Thanks for telling me. Jim, whatever's going on, don't let him push you out. This company needs you. I spent the rest of Monday thinking about Carl's warning, John's questions to the employees, the convenient business valuation, the pressure to sell my shares. All of it pointed to a larger conspiracy. Beth hadn't just been planning her divorce, she'd been planning my complete destruction. That evening, I drove to Elena Keller's house. She lived in Riverside Heights, an upscale neighborhood with manicured lawns and expensive cars. The kind of place where affairs were conducted discreetly and divorces were handled by the best lawyers money could buy. Elena answered the door herself, an attractive woman in her early 40s with tired eyes and a guarded expression. James Parish? Yes. I'm sorry to bother you, but I think we need to talk. She studied my face for a moment, then stepped aside to let me in. Her living room was elegant but sterile, like a furniture showroom. Everything perfectly arranged, nothing out of place. The kind of home that looked impressive but felt empty. Can I get you something to drink? Coffee, if you have it. She disappeared into the kitchen, leaving me alone with family photos that told a story of gradual disconnection. Recent pictures showed Elena and Marcus at formal events, smiling for the camera but standing apart. Older photos showed genuine warmth, couples who actually enjoyed each other's company. Elena returned with 2 coffee cups and sat across from me on a leather sofa that probably cost more than my truck. I assume this is about our respective spouses. You know about Beth and Marcus? I've suspected for months, confirmed it last week. How? Credit card statements, hotel charges, restaurant bills, gifts I never received. I'm sorry. So am I. 22 years of marriage, and this is how it ends. We sat in silence for a moment, 2 people whose lives had been demolished by the same wrecking ball. What are you going to do? I asked. File for divorce. Take him for everything he's worth. Make sure he regrets the day he decided I wasn't good enough anymore. Sounds like a plan. What about you? I'm still figuring that out. Elena leaned forward. Can I give you some advice? Please. Don't underestimate them. Marcus has been planning this for months. He's moved money, hidden assets, prepared for every contingency. How do you know? Because I've been watching, learning, preparing my own contingencies. She disappeared again, returned with a manila folder thick with documents. Financial records, phone bills, travel receipts, everything I could gather without breaking any laws. I flipped through the papers. Hotel registrations in both their names, restaurant charges that corresponded with Beth's late meetings, credit card purchases for jewelry and clothing that had never appeared in our house. This is incredible. It's evidence, and it's yours if you want it. Why would you help me? Because they destroyed our families, and I believe in consequences. I left Elena's house with a folder full of ammunition and a new understanding of what I was facing. Beth and Marcus hadn't just been having an affair, they'd been conducting a systematic campaign to destroy their existing marriages while building their new life together. But they'd made a mistake. They'd assumed their spouses would go quietly. Time to prove them wrong. Tuesday morning, I walked into my lawyer's office armed with Elena's evidence and a clear understanding of what I was fighting. David Chen was a family law attorney recommended by Carl Robertson's wife, known for handling complicated divorces with precision and creativity. His office was downtown, occupying the 3rd floor of a renovated bank building. The waiting room had the quiet efficiency of a medical clinic, with leather chairs and magazines nobody actually read. Mr. Parish? David Chen. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the focused intensity of someone who'd built his reputation on difficult cases. We sat in his conference room while he reviewed Elena's documents and my divorce papers. This is quite a collection, he said after 20 minutes. Your friend has been thorough. Can we use it? Some of it. The financial records show a pattern of deception. The timeline establishes how long the affair has been going on, but we need to be careful about how we present it. Careful how? Family court judges don't like vindictive spouses. If we come across as seeking revenge rather than justice, it could backfire. What's the difference? Justice is about protecting your rights as a father and ensuring fair division of assets. Revenge is about punishing your wife for her choices. And if I want both? Chen smiled. Then we'll have to be very creative about how we define justice. He walked me through the legal landscape. Ohio was a no-fault divorce state, which meant Beth's affair wouldn't automatically give me an advantage in asset division. But it could impact custody decisions if we could prove it affected her judgment or the children's welfare. The key is documentation, Chen explained. Every interaction, every conversation, every decision needs to be recorded and dated. If she's planning to paint you as an unfit father, we need evidence to the contrary. She's already started. My daughters are staying with my brother, and I'm getting limited access. That's temporary. We can challenge it. How? By demonstrating that you're the more stable parent, better living situation, stronger community ties, more consistent presence in their lives. But I don't have a better living situation. She took all the furniture. Then we fix that, immediately. I spent Tuesday afternoon shopping for furniture with the focused intensity of a man preparing for battle. Nothing fancy, just functional pieces that would make my house feel like a home again. Couch, dining table, beds for the girls' rooms. The salesperson at the furniture store was helpful, but confused by my urgency. Most people like to take their time with these decisions, she said, as I selected a complete living room set in under an hour. I'm not most people. By Wednesday evening, my house looked lived in again. Not the same as before, Beth had taken anything with sentimental value, but functional, a place where teenage girls could feel comfortable during custody visits. Thursday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Beth showed up at my office during lunch, looking nervous, but determined. We need to talk, she said. About what? About this. She held up a manila envelope. Elena Keller's been sharing information with you. So? So it needs to stop. This isn't just about us anymore. It stopped being just about us when you involved Marcus. Beth sat in the visitor's chair across from my desk. She was dressed professionally, business suit, careful makeup, every detail designed to project competence and respectability. I know you're angry, she said, but think about the girls. Do you really want them to see their parents destroying each other in court? I want them to see their father fighting for them. By humiliating their mother? By exposing the truth. The truth is that our marriage was over long before Marcus. He didn't break us up. He just helped me realize what I was missing. What were you missing? Attention. Appreciation. Someone who made me feel important. I made you feel important. You made me feel useful. There's a difference. The distinction stung because it contained enough truth to hurt. I had taken Beth for granted in recent years, assumed she was content with our routine, our comfortable but passionless existence. So you decided to have an affair? I decided to find someone who saw me as more than a housekeeper and babysitter. And Marcus sees you as more? He sees me as a partner, an equal. An equal partner who's destroying two families for a chance at happiness? Beth's composure cracked slightly. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You chose Marcus over your family. Own it. I chose myself over a marriage that was making me miserable. Were you miserable? Really? Or were you just bored? Does it matter? It matters to me, and it'll matter to Beau and Bree when they're old enough to understand what really happened. Beth stood up. I came here to ask you to be reasonable, to handle this divorce like adults. I am being reasonable. I'm fighting for my daughters and my business. Your business? What does the company have to do with our marriage? Ask your boyfriend. He seems to have opinions about my future role at Parish Brothers. Marcus doesn't care about your business. Then why has John been asking employees whether they'd be comfortable with new ownership? Beth's expression shifted, became guarded. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. I think this whole thing has been planned from the beginning. The affair, the divorce, the business takeover, all of it. You're being paranoid. Am I? Or am I finally paying attention? She left without saying goodbye, but her visit had accomplished something important. It confirmed my suspicions about the scope of their plan. Friday afternoon, I got a call from Beau. Dad, can you come get us? We want to come home. What happened? Uncle John and Aunt Sarah had a fight. About you and Mom. It got really loud. Are you okay? We're fine, but we don't want to stay here anymore. I drove to John's house with my heart racing. My daughters were sitting on the front porch with overnight bags, looking like refugees from their own lives. What's going on? I asked. Uncle John said some things about you, Bryce said quietly. Mean things. Like what? That you were trying to ruin Mom's happiness. That you were being selfish and vindictive. And Aunt Sarah disagreed? She said Uncle John was being unfair, that you had a right to be angry. I loaded their bags into my truck, feeling like I'd won a small but significant victory. My daughters were coming home, at least temporarily. Are we in trouble? Bew asked as we drove away. Why would you be in trouble? For choosing sides. You're not choosing sides. You're choosing where you feel safe and loved. We love Mom too, Bree said. I know you do, and that's okay. But we don't understand why she had to leave. Sometimes adults make choices that are hard to understand. Do you still love her? The question came from Bree, my younger daughter, the one who'd always been most sensitive to family dynamics. I love the mother who raised you. I'm not sure I know the person she's become. That weekend, I cooked dinner for my daughters in our own kitchen, helped them with homework at our own table, tucked them into their own beds. Small, normal activities that felt like acts of rebellion. Sunday evening, Beth called. The girls need to come back to John's house. Why? Because that's what the temporary custody order says. The girls don't want to go back. What they want isn't the issue. The court order is clear. Then maybe we should modify the court order. James, don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'm not making anything hard. I'm being their father. You're being stubborn. I'm being protective. Monday morning, I dropped the girls off at school and drove straight to David Chen's office. We need to file for emergency custody modification, I told him. On what grounds? The girls are unhappy with the current arrangement. They want to live with me. That's not enough. We need evidence that the current situation is harmful to their welfare. What kind of evidence? A documentation of instability, conflict, anything that suggests they're better off in your care. I can get that. How? Leave that to me. I spent Monday afternoon making phone calls, gathering information, building a case. By Tuesday, I had statements from teachers about the girls' emotional state, documentation of their academic performance, evidence of their preference for living with me. But I also had something else, something Elena Keller had provided that changed everything. Financial records showing that Marcus and Beth had been planning their new life for over 18 months. Bank accounts opened in both their names. Insurance policies with beneficiaries changed. Investment accounts transferred to offshore holdings. They hadn't just been having an affair, they'd been systematically stealing assets from both marriages to fund their future together. Wednesday morning, I walked into John's office with a folder full of evidence and a clear ultimatum. We need to talk about the business. What about it? About how you and Beth have been planning to steal it. John's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. The lowball valuation, the pressure to sell, the employee loyalty tests, all of it designed to push me out so you can take over completely. That's not true. Then explain these. I spread the financial documents across his desk. Bank statements, investment transfers, business loan applications, all showing coordination between John, Beth, and Marcus that went back over a year. Where did you get these? Does it matter? John stared at the papers like they were evidence of his own execution. Jimmy, I can explain. I'm sure you can, but I don't want explanations. I want solutions. What kind of solutions? The kind that keep me as an equal partner in this business, the kind that protect my daughters from your manipulation, the kind that make sure Beth and Marcus pay for what they've done. And if I don't agree? Then these documents go to the State Attorney General's office, along with evidence of business fraud, asset manipulation, and conspiracy to commit theft. John leaned back in his chair. You wouldn't destroy the company to get revenge. Try me. We stared at each other across the desk loaded with evidence of betrayal. Brothers who'd built something together, now prepared to tear it apart. What do you want? He asked finally. I want my life back. That's not possible. Then I want the people who took it to pay. How much? Everything. The boardroom at Parish Brothers Electric had never hosted a meeting like this one. Thursday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, with every key player assembled around the polished conference table like generals preparing for war. John sat at the head of the table, looking like a man facing his own execution. Carl Robertson was to his right, representing the employees who'd chosen sides. David Chen sat beside me with 3 manila folders and a digital recorder. Across from us, Beth's lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Wells, reviewed documents with the focused intensity of someone billing $400 an hour. Beth herself looked smaller than I remembered, diminished by the weight of everything that was about to unfold. Marcus wasn't present, a tactical decision by their legal team, since his presence would only reinforce the adultery angle we were planning to exploit. Before we begin, Chen said, I want everyone to understand that this meeting is being recorded. Anything said here can and will be used in subsequent legal proceedings. Wells nodded. My clients understand. Good. Then let's start with the business issues. Chen opened his first folder and spread financial documents across the table. Bank statements, loan applications, asset transfers. The paper trail Elena Keller had helped me assemble. These documents show a pattern of financial manipulation dating back 18 months, Chen continued. Systematic transfer of company assets, artificial depression of business valuation, and coordination between John Parish and Beth Parish to defraud James Parish of his rightful ownership stake. John's face had gone gray. Those transactions were legitimate business decisions. Were they? This loan application lists the company's value at $600,000, but this independent appraisal, conducted last month, puts the value at $2.4 million. That's quite a discrepancy. Market conditions change. Not that dramatically, and not in ways that conveniently benefit your position while harming your brothers. Wells leaned forward. What exactly are you alleging? Conspiracy to commit fraud, asset manipulation, breach of fiduciary duty. Take your pick. I watched Beth's face as the accusations mounted. She was trying to maintain composure, but I could see cracks forming. This wasn't the clean, simple divorce she'd planned. Let's move to the custody issues, Chen said, opening his second folder. More documents, school records showing the girls' declining performance since the separation, psychological evaluations indicating stress and confusion, statements from teachers, neighbors, family friends, all painting a picture of children caught in an adult disaster. The temporary custody arrangement has been harmful to the minor children, Chen stated. They've expressed clear preference for living with their father, their academic performance has suffered, their emotional state has deteriorated. That's temporary adjustment, Wells countered. All children struggle with divorce initially. Some struggle more than others, especially when they are being used as pawns in their parents' games. Chen opened the third folder. This was the nuclear option. Evidence of Beth and Marcus's systematic planning, their coordination not just of an affair, but of a complete life reconstruction at the expense of their existing families. These documents show that Beth Parish and Marcus Keller have been planning their new life together for over 18 months. Joint bank accounts, shared investments, insurance beneficiaries changed, property purchases made in both names. He spread photographs across the table. Beth and Marcus at restaurants, hotels, real estate offices. Not just the evidence of an affair, but documentation of a calculated campaign to build a new life while systematically dismantling their old ones. This isn't just adultery, Chen continued. This is conspiracy. A coordinated effort to defraud both families while positioning themselves for maximum advantage in the subsequent legal proceedings. Beth was staring at the photographs like she was seeing ghosts. Where did you get these? Discovery process, Chen replied smoothly. Amazing what people leave behind when they think they're being clever. What do you want? Wells asked. Full custody of the minor children, equal partnership in Parish Brothers Electric, and financial compensation for the assets that have been systematically stolen over the past 18 months. That's unreasonable. What's unreasonable is expecting my client to accept the destruction of his family and business without consequence. John finally spoke up. Jimmy, be reasonable. We can work something out. I am being reasonable. I'm offering you a choice. What choice? Accept our terms or face criminal charges for business fraud. The room went quiet. Even the air conditioning seemed to pause, waiting for someone to break the silence. Wells whispered something to Beth, who shook her head violently. More whispered conversation, then Wells addressed the room. We need time to consider these allegations. You have until 5 p.m. today, Chen said. After that, we file criminal complaints with the State Attorney General and petition for emergency custody modification. That's not enough time. It's plenty of time to decide whether you want to negotiate or fight. The meeting broke up with the stiff formality of a diplomatic summit gone wrong. Beth left without looking at me, Wells gathering documents like she was preparing for siege warfare. John lingered after the others had gone. This is really how you want to handle it? He asked. This is how you forced me to handle it. I was trying to protect the business. You were trying to steal the business. From who? You're my brother. Then why didn't you act like it? He didn't have an answer for that. I spent the afternoon at home with my daughters, helping with homework and pretending everything was normal. They could sense the tension, kids always can, but they didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. At 4:30, my phone rang. Wells calling to negotiate. My clients are prepared to discuss modified terms. I'm listening. Joint custody of the children with primary residence determined by their preference. 50-50 split of all marital assets, including business interests. No criminal charges filed. Not good enough. What would be good enough? Full custody, full business ownership, and Beth pays me back for the assets she's stolen. That's vindictive. That's justice. She'll never agree to those terms. Then she'll face the consequences. Wells hung up without saying goodbye. At 5:15, Chen called. No deal. We're filing the criminal complaints tomorrow morning. Good. You sure about this? Once we pull this trigger, there's no going back. I'm sure. Friday morning, the story broke in the local newspaper. Local storm. Low contam. Local business owner faces fraud charges. The article was brief but damaging, enough detail to destroy reputations without crossing into libel territory. By noon, my phone was ringing constantly. Clients, suppliers, employees, all wanting to know what was happening to Parish Brothers Electric. I spent the day doing damage control, reassuring customers that the business would continue operating normally despite the legal proceedings. Most were understanding. Small business owners know that family disputes can get complicated. But the real victory came at 3 p.m. when Bew called from school. Dad, Mom's here. She wants to talk to us. About what? About coming to live with her and Marcus. What did you tell her? That we want to stay with you. And? She got really upset, started crying. The principal had to ask her to leave. Are you okay? We're fine. But Dad, we don't want to live with Mom and Marcus. We want to stay home. Then that's what we'll do. That evening, Beth called. You've won, she said. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy. I'm just tired of losing. The girls hate me now. The girls love you. They just don't understand why you left them. I didn't leave them. I left you. Same thing, from their perspective. Marcus and I are moving to Florida. Fresh start, new opportunities. What about your daughters? They've made their choice clear. They're children, Beth. They need their mother. They need stability, something I apparently can't provide. The line went quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry, she said finally. For all of it. For the lying, the cheating, the way this all fell apart. I know. Do you forgive me? I forgive the woman I married. I'm not sure I know who you became. Maybe that's fair. She hung up, and I never spoke to her again. 6 months later, I was sitting in my kitchen on a Saturday morning, reading the newspaper while Bew and Bree argued about whose turn it was to load the dishwasher. Normal family chaos, the kind I'd learned not to take for granted. Parish Brothers Electric had survived the scandal, even thrived. John had sold me his shares and moved to Colorado, where he started a small consulting firm. The company was mine now, completely, along with all the responsibilities that entailed. The divorce had been finalized with minimal drama once Beth realized she had no leverage left. I got full custody, she got a modest settlement, and Marcus got a wife who destroyed her relationship with her children for his sake. Elena Keller sent Christmas cards, signed Your Partner in Justice. She'd taken Marcus for everything in their divorce, then moved to Arizona to be closer to her sister. My daughters had adjusted better than I'd expected. They missed their mother, but they understood why she'd left. Children are remarkably resilient when they feel secure and loved. As for me, I'd learned that electrical engineering principles apply to more than just circuits and systems. Sometimes you have to cut the right wires to restore proper current flow. And sometimes the people who try to short-circuit your life discover they've messed with the wrong wire cutter. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window as I finished my coffee and prepared for another day of honest work. Outside, spring was returning to the neighborhood, bringing new growth and fresh possibilities. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was the life I'd fought for, and that made all the difference.